You're listening to the Kingdom Project Podcast. These are discussions on biblical theology and interpretation. The emphasis is on context and grace. The goal is to promote biblical literacy by displacing and debunking most modern interpretations. The challenge is to engage in healthy conversation that may stretch but sharpen iron. This is the Kingdom Project, and I'm your host, Marcus Hall.
So we finished chapter 3 of John's letter. We're in 1 John. We've been going through that for those who haven't been here. Going through 1 John. So we finished chapter 3, and it was looking at love in the believer last week. And now we're moving into chapter 4. And this is Test the Spirits, which is the heading, the title of what we have put into the Bible. I'm going to go ahead and just read 1 through 6. That's what we're looking at today. And then we'll go verse by verse like we always do. But he says, "Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God. For many false prophets have gone out into the world. By this you know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesses that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is from God. And every spirit that does not confess Jesus is not from God. This is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you heard was coming and now is in the world already. Little children, you are from God and have overcome them, for he who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. They are from the world, therefore they speak from the world, and the world listens to them. We are from God. Whoever knows God listens to us. Whoever is not from God does not listen to us. By this we know the spirit of truth and the spirit of error." So, if you've been in church for any amount of time, you're going to hear test the spirits. You're going to hear spirit of truth, spirit of error. These are very common phrases and people we use. So what is just test the spirits? That's what we'll be looking at. He's giving us this this criteria for this on how to do this test. All right, there's many ways to go around this in this first section, and the reason for that is the use of the words spirit and spirits. It has a broad range of meanings, okay, from a current of air or a breeze. It could be a figurative spirit, such as the human soul, the mental disposition, an angel, a demon, or even God. There's pneuma is a broad range of meanings. You have to look at how it's being used. But what we know, though, is that there's different people that have different beliefs. Some don't believe in a personal devil or demons. To them, there never was such a thing. It's just like a lot how these false teachers in this time, the Gnostics, were seeing a lot of stuff. There's some that believe that Satan and demons and unclean spirits are those real beings, and they're very active today. And some believe that all those, they were real, but they were all have been completely destroyed. So rather than tease out all of those, I'm not going to take the time to do that. I'm going to take a really long path, rabbit trail there, very, very long one. Instead of doing that, I know I tell you guys the different options, and those are the different types of people. Those are the different types of beliefs, all right? You can look into those yourself if you'd like to. But to make sense of them is to make sense with the text. That's the best thing to do, okay? To remember the context of the letter. Now, and you can choose to call it a battle, or you can choose to call it spiritual warfare here as well. Because it is dealing with this battle and this warfare, and it's a battle over truth. And that's what he's talking about. So there's a contrast between two spirits, and that's the spirit of Christ and the spirit of Antichrist, which we already dealt with earlier in this and gave a biblical definition for. It was anyone who opposes God. All right? So all of that is important to keep in mind, all right? So when he starts, "Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God. For many false prophets have gone out into the world." John's readers, again, I keep repeating, but we want you to remember. John's readers, they were in danger of believing the lies from these false teachers, these Gnostics or soon to be Gnostic type of people. They were claiming to speak for God, and they were claiming to have had the special revelation from God that nobody else had, even beyond the apostles. So every believer should have enough of a grasp of biblical doctrine to be able to discern between truth and error. Okay? And this is what I'm always saying. Read your Bibles. Read your Bibles. Because a lot don't. In how we are in America, the Western evangelicalism, a lot of people are not equipped on biblical doctrine. One of the reasons is, for many believers, biblical ignorance is that they don't read their Bibles. That's why. So it's really easy to get caught up. Another reason is their lack. This lack of understanding is that there's very few pulpits today that engage in a expository type of preaching or teaching, or consecutive teaching of God's Word, and week in and week out. I'm not saying that's the 100% way to go every time. Topical's fine. Things like that are fine. I'm not used to doing that. The issue I have is when they just have a good sermon and then find a verse to fit the sermon, and it's plucked out of context. Like, that'll work. And it's like, well, that's not what it means. Okay? So testing the Spirit means having discernment. And it's placing responsibility on you. It's on the believer. To test is to make a critical examination of something. All right? So John's readers, they were to test everything by his teaching, by the teaching of the apostolic circle. All right? So we are to test them with the Word of God. We have all of it. They had the apostles' teachings, and may have not been circulating heavily like in the Bible that we have now, but they had the Old Testament, and then they had the apostolic teachings. So as the church, as the body of Christ, we are to support and display the truth of God. Okay? We're not the source of the truth. God is, which is in His Bible, but we are to support it. We are to display it. The Bible is God's Word, and that's why, right? We support and display that truth. That's done through faithfully expounding on His Word. So as a believer, your job is to be like the noble Bereans that you read about in Acts, to search the Scriptures to see if what is being taught is true. That's why I've told you guys many times to do that. Sometimes I'm wrong. And it's okay to admit that, right? I've been wrong before, and then I've made that correction before too. So if you guys were searching the Bibles, you could have caught it before I had to correct myself. I'm just playing. I'm playing. But John especially had in mind these false teachers, all right? I mean, like I said, the New Testament, almost every letter is like false teachers, false teachers, false teachers. There's so many, right? So that one particular group who had left the church, and they were drawing others after them, all right? These false prophets are described as having gone out into the world, and that appears to be a direct reference of what we had seen earlier in this letter, that when he said to go out or depart, they went out from us, they were not of them. All right, so these scattered communities, they didn't have that immediate access to authoritative figures, all right, like John or the other apostles. So communication with them was not always easy. That's why they had these letters. John had sent emissaries, though, to communicate with the churches. You'll see this in 3 John. And they would sometimes carry letters like this to these communities. So these congregations, they had been glad to welcome John's traveling ambassadors. But there were also these false prophets who, like those emissaries from John, they claimed to speak truth under the inspiration of the Spirit as well. So it's significant that this warning comes in the midst of John's discourse about love that we saw last week. Because false spirits, they tend to make a great deal out of the subject of love. All right? Every cult, every deviant group, every false movement makes an appeal in the name of love, and whether it's religious or political. It's love, right? It's always the center of that. So just remember that. Verse 2 and 3, by this you know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesses that Jesus the Christ has come in the flesh is from God, and every spirit that does not confess Jesus is not from God. This is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you heard was coming and now is already in the world. So again, like we took that one Sunday to talk about the Antichrist, here he says the Antichrist was in the world then. So, it wasn't a political figure at that time, rising up to make a one world government. There was an Antichrist then, there always has been, there always will be. So John gives this test to his readers, relates to what these false people taught. All right, and it's a doctrinal test. So notice John did not say that we can tell false spirits by their works. Okay, this is important. He said we can identify them as false spirits by their message. Okay, this is their words. So, and I can't tell you how many times, and I'm in a minority on this, but I have debated this next part so many times on the word fruit in the Bible. Okay, fruit. Where at times it is works. All right, but John is saying to test them by their doctrine. Okay, Jesus said the same thing. So in Matthew 7:15 through 20, Jesus says, beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. You will recognize them by their fruits. Are grapes gathered from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? So every healthy tree bears good fruit, but the diseased tree bears bad fruit. A healthy tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a diseased tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus you will recognize them by their fruit. So people are always like, you'll know them by their works. It's usually the argument. So, but I think, contrary to the popular interpretation, and I've done the word studies and all this stuff, that it doesn't mean that we were to be tested by our works, because notice what Jesus says about fruit later in the gospel, Matthew 12:33 through 37. He says, either make the tree good and its fruit good, or make the tree bad and its fruit bad, for the tree is known by its fruit. You brood of vipers, how can you speak good when you are evil? For out of the abundance of the heart of the mouth speaks. The good person out of his good treasure brings forth good. The evil person out of his evil treasure brings forth evil. I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give account for every careless word they speak. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. So to me, studying this thoroughly, and there's much more to look at, but in short there, those texts proved that fruits are their words. In other words, it's not what they do, but it's what they say. Their behavior does not set them apart from the sheep, but it's the message. It's the doctrine that sets them apart. Thus, it is doctrinal. It's a doctrinal issue. So I do believe that in Matthew 7, the fruit there is doctrine. Many people always run, no, all the time, it's okay. But I think that seems to be clear to me. Therefore, everyone who claims, right, that claims the same thing about this apostolic and biblical truth is confessing a truth that is taught by the Holy Spirit. Okay? So this is the essential doctrinal test for the false teachers whom John was combating in this epistle. What do you think of Jesus, right? It's the criterion that eliminates a host of heresies. When John states Jesus the Christ has come in the flesh, he's referring not only to Christ's true deity, but to his true humanity as well, right? The hypostatic union. It also affirms that Christ's humanity was not temporary, it was permanent. And this is not a minor issue because Jesus is truly one with humanity and one with God. And that little phrase, has come, implies his preexistence as the eternal Son of God. So the first test that you want to have for any teacher is their Christology, all right? Their doctrine of Christ, which presupposes the doctrine of the Trinity, all right? But anyone who denies the Trinity then has problems because Jesus cannot be God, come in the flesh, and the second person of the Trinity in the fullness of what we have in the teachings of the New Testament about him, right? If there's no Trinity. And then you have denying that the man Jesus was also the Christ, that he came from the Father and was the pre-existent Son, that he took upon himself human flesh apart from sin, and that he died on the cross. All that is to deny the faith, because in doing so, you deny the incarnation. There's like all these things, right? And because then you just watch it, all the dominoes fall. Then you deny the incarnation, you deny the atonement because it had to do with flesh it had to be flesh and blood that died and atoned for sins. And then by denying that, you deny the resurrection, which gives us new life, because it was not it wouldn't have been a physical resurrection if Christ did not come in the flesh, right? So it's just like one after another. But usually these are just like very subtle. Like Jesus was just a man doing this stuff, right? He was a man, but he was God, right? It's very subtle. So to deny that Jesus is true God and at the same time true man, and is to deny the Christian faith. To deny either his deity or his humanity will deny that he is our Savior. So if he were not God, he would have been a sinner, and his death on the cross could not have atoned for anything beyond his own sins, right? If he were not a man, he could not have assumed our sins on the cross, and according to Hebrews 2, 14 through 17. So faith in him to save from sin would be worthless. All of that was just out the window. So any teaching that denies all of this, it denies that Jesus is true God and true man, that as the second person of the Trinity, Jesus took on human flesh in the incarnation, is a doctrine of Antichrist. So John clearly taught that every spirit that denied the true nature of Jesus was not from God. But he also taught that every spirit that did not confess Jesus was not from God. So often, heretical teachings will mask its deviations from the truth, okay, by simply failing to affirm an important biblical truth. It's very subtle, like I said. Rather than actually saying, well, Jesus is not the Christ, they'll just fail to affirm that he is the Christ, okay? Verse 4, little children, you are from God and have overcome them, for he who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. So overcome here means to subdue or conquer. And so by overcome, John means that his hearers have resisted these false teachings. The Spirit protects us through God's word, be it oral to them or written to us when we read it, which reveals the truth about the person and the work of Christ. The word is the measure by which we test the spirits. All right? So we need to study. We need to diligently study God's Word in dependence on the Holy Spirit for our understanding of what it's saying. Then we'll be able to overcome false teachers when they come our way. Just, nope, get out of here. So, the child of God need not fear then the spirit of Antichrist, even though they should be warned of it. He warned them of it, but need not fear it because they have the indwelling Spirit of God. So the phrase, he who is in the world, people often say is describing the devil. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that because it means anything that opposes God and his truth. All right? Anything, right? Is devil. The devil, it's a demon. It's evil. It's bad. Stay away, right? Do not take that in. So this means that the Christian has no place for fear of this stuff. We have many spiritual enemies, all right? When I just spiritual, and you can take it anyway. I mean, but we have many spiritual enemies, but not one of them is greater than Jesus, who lives in us. Not one. So earlier in this letter, John brought up the ideal of the world. Remember that? The world and children of the devil. He described them as a community of sinful humanity that is united in rebellion against God. That's what it's all comes around. That's what he's talking about, all right? The world out there, they rebel. They want to live their life independently, all right? They want to live it out away from God. We can do it on our own. We can do it on ourselves. We oppose these things. They're children of the devil. It sounds harsh, but it is what it is. It's not harsh. It's the truth. I was born a child of the devil because I was born a sinner, right? It's just the truth. Verse 5. They are from the world, therefore they speak from the world, and the world listens to them, all right? Those, it should be pretty self-explanatory. Those who are from the world will be heard and accepted by others who likewise dwell, right, within the sphere of the world, with them. So while the cessationists, these Gnostics or these false prophets are from the world and are listened to by the world, the author and his community, John, and this church here, are from God. Those who truly know God will listen to them and not to these false teachers. Hence the next verse. We are from God. Whoever knows God listens to us. Whoever is not from God does not listen to us. By this we know the spirit of truth and the spirit of error. So there's three distinct groups, I believe, that are intended here. You refers to the readers. They refers to the false teachers. And we is the same group designated as we at the very beginning of this letter. Now, some will say we is all believers here. We know the spirit of the truth and spirit of error when he says that. It kind of stands and makes sort of competes to the word they, so I don't want to get too technical there because people get confused. So I believe, though, it's better to interpret as referring to the apostles, the apostolic circle, and their teaching and their doctrine. Like we, the apostles, are from God. I think it would read better like that. The one who knows God listens to us, right? So we go to the Word, like I've been saying, the apostles' teachings, right? We listen to it, right? We read it. He who is not from God does not listen to us. They reject our teachings. So it makes more sense that way. So when John speaks of us, though, collectively, he's representing the apostolic circle. And what he means is all who know God will accept the teaching of the apostolic circle that is found in the New Testament. And those who are not of God are going to reject it. They're going to just refuse the testimony of the apostles and the apostles' doctrine that we find in the New Testament scriptures. Okay, so understanding just who hears what God has taught us through the apostles as recorded in the New Testament helps us to know the spirit of truth and the spirit of error. If someone hears what God has said in the Bible, we know he has a spirit of truth. If he does not hear it, he rejects it, we know they're in a spirit of error. So if we stand with Christ, listening receptively, confessing loyally, it's because the Holy Spirit is greater than all the other forces that are in the world, and he has made us to overcome, to conquer the blindness and the hardness of our own hearts. And the deception then of all the false teachings, all the false ideologies, all the false everything that's out there. So how do we, as believers today, test those spirits, right? We test everything by the Word of God. And that's it. Know this, test it like that. Get familiar with your Bible. You read it, study it, and be at home in it. Like, that should be like, that's comfort. That's my, I'm cozy in there, right? Even when it pokes and prods you and makes you feel uncomfortable. All right? Is there any questions, comments, disagreements?